Hi all, my name is Shay Twinter. This is my presentation for Module 16 for EDL 854, covering standard number 8 by a case study titled Missing Booster Club Funds. Principal has discovered that a $50 bill that was used to pay for tickets is not included in the cash box at the end of an event, and it is his job to make sure that procedures have been followed and that there was no misuse. So what we already know is that a gentleman, Mr. Dumas, came in from recently cashing his work check and used a large bill, a $50 bill, to pay for his entrance into a basketball game. The principal, who was standing near and supporting the team and doing his supervision duty, had a chance to talk with the gentleman and discovered that the man had paid with the $50 bill, and he was ecstatic that the gentleman had decided to come and spend the game with him. Also, 10 tickets were destroyed and reported as torn. They were 10 consecutive tickets, and it did not mention if those tickets were included, but it did not say that they were. Also, information that we know is that one gatekeeper was involved with a discussion with the principal and requested funds for her student to attend a higher level activity, and she was denied. And she was one of the ones involved in the gatekeeping efforts that resulted in the missing $50 bill. So what do we need to know that we don't already know? Where are the 10 torn tickets? Were they thrown away? Were they turned in? Where's the $50 bill? Is it part of a change box type effort where there's actually a larger bill in the gatekeeper's box that the $50 bill was used to make change for? Did they use the gatekeeping box as a change box for another event, and that's why maybe there's the right amount of money in there, but the $50 bill was for someone else to use as change? And was there a two-person team handling the money and the tickets at all times? Or was there an instance when one person had the opportunity to misuse the funds? So our main question right now is, were there any funds stolen from the gate proceeds? So here is the plan of action. First off, we can only ask the people who were involved. The gatekeepers were the people who were the witnesses to the event. So before we do anything, the principal must have a conversation with each of them, preferably separate, and he needs to ask them 3 questions. Number 1, where are the torn tickets? Can they be retrieved? Number 2, is there a reason why the $50 bill was not in the change box? Can that be easily explained? And number 3, was there any chance for misuse of funds, or were the 2 gatekeepers together at all times? We cannot pass judgment on Mrs. Bowman just because she had a previous conversation that did not go the way she wanted it to. There's no proof that she did anything wrong, and we do not know her character. But it's the principal's job to answer those questions and make sure that he follows policy. So after he has that conversation, and hopefully he has that conversation in the presence of another staff member or someone who can witness it as well, sort of as an interviewing team. After he's had those conversations, then he needs to sit down with people who are involved in that conversation, as in the interviewing team, not the gatekeepers. But the interviewing team needs to sit down and see if there's any inconsistencies. Did something not ring true? Have any conclusions been made? Were they able to find the 10 tickets? They were in the trash and they were able to retrieve them. Or maybe they were able to see, oh, there's a $100 bill in the gatekeeper's box. The $50 bill must have been used as change. Are there any other concerns that have arisen as a result of the interview? If there are any inconsistencies or any concerns that have arisen, then more information needs to be gathered. So after they've interviewed the gatekeepers once and then processed the information, this is when the interviewing team needs to chart a plan of action. If the original questions have been answered, then the case may be closed. But if there's inconsistencies or concerns, it is now time for them to formulate a new plan, either by more interviews or discussions with central office as to what to do next. So now we need to resolve the issue as long as we are promoting the success of all students. What is the best thing for the students? Well, if misuse was proven, this is when district policy needs to be followed. If there is absolute proof, it is in the best interest of all, of course, if you do it with decorum, but district policy would need to be followed. But no matter the outcome, there are a few policy changes that can be implemented in order to help with future situations. Number one, requiring that all the damaged tickets be bagged and returned along with the cash box in the post-event report. If a large bill was used as a change box type transaction where someone wished to get rid of smaller bills and they traded for the larger bill, that needs to be documented on the paperwork so that in that instance the principal could have looked and seen, oh, it is a change box type transaction and it's been dealt with. Principal Stevens did an amazing job, especially for a gentleman who did not have a lot of help. He had to entrust the PTA, but he put together policies and procedures that would ensure that the money was sound and it was safe. He required 2 gatekeepers to work at all times in each area, not just gatekeepers, but in concessions as well. He required them both to do an after-event report, which detailed what the bills are, how many tickets were sold, inventory, and whatnot. Not only that, but he had a security guard witness him counting the money and second it, and then walk him to his car so that he was safe at all times. So now that we have gone through the information, we've evaluated the information, it's now to kind of debrief the problem. The first thought that I think comes to mind is the information about Mrs. Bowman asking for the PTA funds. If that had not been included, then we would not be thinking that she could have possibly taken them because she was desperate, because she was upset. If you take out the information about Mrs. Bowman requesting funds and not receiving them, this is not an issue until maybe 2 or 3 more down the road. Plus, we know nothing about Mrs. Bowman except that she's asking for funds. We know nothing about her character. If this is, of course, people may act outside of their character, but their character usually governs their actions, and we know nothing about Mrs. Bowman. The second thing that caught my eye was the missing tickets. First off, they were 10 consecutive tickets that were torn. That seems a little odd, but if the 10 tickets are bagged and included with the gate box post-event form, then that makes sense. I'm sure in some situations it's happened, but it's just an odd occurrence. That's why one of the solutions was to bag and turn in the tickets so that no misuse could be claimed. The third thought was that we are dealing with a very small level of money. We're dealing with $50, which, money is money and all of it counts, but it's on a smaller scale than say embezzlement would be, even though this is somewhat the same. $50 or 10 tickets, we're not really sure what's missing, but if solid evidence isn't found, we cannot claim guilt. We have to resort to enacting more safeguards instead. You cannot point a finger and assume guilt when evidence is not prevalent. There are 3 things that we still don't know about. Were the tickets torn? Was the $50 used in a change box type transaction? And did the gatekeepers follow procedures to making sure both were working at the same time? So now it's time to reflect on Standard 8. Standard 8 says that an educational leader will promote the academic success and personal well-being of every student by ensuring effective and efficient management of the school or the district to promote student social and academic learning. So we're going to start with talking about Principal Stevens. He did an amazing job promoting the effective and efficient management of the school district. He had placed into action policies that, number 1, required 2 gatekeepers so that there's accountability. Number 2, he required that each department, whether it be gatekeeping or concessions, complete an after-event report. And he had a security guard on hand to protect him as he carried the proceeds, but also to be a witness to make sure that the gatekeepers and the concession stands reported accurately. He promoted social learning because he, in his very busy schedule, is at an athletic event and he is there in person supporting his students. He is working very closely with the local PTA so that these events get funded and that they are able to continue. But I also liked how he encouraged each student in their pursuit by making sure that they knew how proud he was of them. When he was talking with Mrs. Bowman, he mentioned about how he was proud of her daughter. When he was talking to Mr. Dumas, he was mentioning how it was going to be a great game. He had positive verbal affirmation about what his students were doing, and that was a big impact on the social learning progress. He promotes academic learning. It was a little harder to determine academic learning, but he did. He coordinates with the PTA to install the Reading Buddies program. He puts together these procedures so that this money can be gathered and then used for school activities and after-school activities. He then directly involves the parents and the stakeholders in the workings of the school just by being a part and working so well with the PTA. And here are my references. Thank you very much.